The following is a presentation of the Eagles Sports Network.
Richard Martin here for the latest edition of Mossy Creek Conversations, and I'm happy to be joined this week by former Carson-Newman football player and current assistant strength and conditioning coach for the Los Angeles Rams, Zach Witherspoon. Zach, thank you so much for making your time out today and meeting with me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, we're going to go through a little bit of your career and kind of go through how you got from Carson-Newman to Los Angeles. And we'll start. You played football at Oak Ridge High School, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And, man, that's just a program that has been so historically successful, has had great players go. What is some of your best memories of your playing time at Oak Ridge High School?
Oh, man. Blankenship Field on a Friday night. There's not many places better. Famous part of that field is the steps descending from the locker room. You got about 50 steps descending down to the playing field. And, those Friday nights rivalry games against Clinton High School are some of the best memories, that I still have of football. So.
Awesome. And then, of course, you make your way to Mossy Creek, Carson-Newman. How did that kind of recruiting process work for you? And did you always think that you're going to kind of stay close to home and play at Carson-Newman?
Really, by the end of my playing career, I kind of thought that I was going to be done. At Oak Ridge, I was running track at the time, and had been recruited by a couple of NAIA schools. Wasn't really sure what my path was going to be, and then Mike Clowney actually reached out. He was on the defensive side of the ball at the time, and reached out about potentially playing safety or maybe playing receiver, playing running back, because I had kind of moved around a little bit while I was at Oak Ridge, and took one visit and absolutely loved it. Loved the facilities as far as the athletic side of things, and then with the exercise science program there, at Carson-Newman, it was kind of a slam dunk. So it was an opportunity for me to be the best player that I could possibly be, and that was kind of how I wanted to leave my football career.
And so looking at your football career, you played primarily on the special teams side of the field. A lot of people may say, it's just special teams, but that's a way for you to get out there and get noticed, and also to work on some of the intangibles. What do you remember of just kind of playing out there and just getting ready to go out there? What may seem like to some people not as a big role, but it's also a very important role on a football team.
I enjoyed playing special teams. Even playing receiver at Carson-Newman, like you're going to do some grunt work, right? Whether it's, a crack block on a speed option play, or whether you're playing primarily on special teams. A couple memories that I have. I remember the last kickoff return I had against Lenore-Ryan, at Lenore-Ryan in the playoffs. I remember the first time I was out, we were at Newberry, and I was on punt block, and I came through. Nobody touched me. And I just put my hands in the wrong place and missed the freaking ball. Like, it was awful. So I remember that. And then I think there was a game, Mars Hill at home, which was another one, kind of bumps and bruises, where I was front line on kickoff return, which is not a fun place to be on the football field. It's kind of a losing battle. And one of the starting linebackers from Mars Hill just absolutely tried to put his cleats through my chest. So that was a good time, but some self-deprecating there, but it's fun to be out and be on the special team side of the ball, because it's a physical facet of the game. It's definitely important. You certainly see it at this level. I enjoyed every single bit of my playing career.
And while you're playing here, of course, you played under the legend Ken Sparks, one of the greatest coaches, not just in D2, but all of college football. What are some of the lessons that you think he impacted on you that you try to use in your coaching career?
Yeah, Coach Sparks always took the time to invest in his players as people, above everything else. And that's one thing that has stayed me throughout my career, being able to develop those relationships, being able to recognize players as people first. That's something that I always take with me, that I always value. And then just some of the leadership capabilities that he put a lot of us in positions to take on. whether it was through leadership committee trips in the summers or anything else like that. But it was a great place to learn and develop as a young man, for sure.
Look back, of course, exercise science major, and you were the Eagle Club all academic male athlete for 2013. What were some, classes, you got to do classes and play football, and that can wear down a little bit on your mental health at times. And how have you seen, changes now, mental health come to the front in football and other sports as well? How have you seen, in using your own coaching career to kind of help athletes balance their mental health with everything else going on and on the field?
Great question. I think having everything in its proper place as far as priorities go is super important from a mental health side of things when you're just dealing with the different stressors. I kind of have tried to encourage it in my own life and practice of always having a meditation or a quiet time, just a moment to be still and appreciate where you're at and what you need to accomplish going forward. And I think that that's valuable for everybody in any walk of life, whether you're a student athlete at the college level, whether you're a professional, whether you're a professional on the business side of things. Being able to do that and kind of take that moment to step back, it has been huge for me. Because you're exactly right. It can get cluttered. It can get out in front of you a little bit. It can feel overwhelming, but taking a moment to step back and kind of put some things in proper perspective for sure.
Absolutely. So exercise science, that's a difficult major to me. I was a communications major, so some of that stuff, no, but you worked hard at it. Who were some of your favorite professors here at Carson-Newman that kind of helped you guide along your path to coaching eventually?
So there's three that kind of jump out. Dr. Michael Scheib was the exercise science department when I was there. He was basically a one-man band, taught every single major course and was phenomenal. Made it engaging, very informative. I still keep in touch with him to this day. And, that exercise science department kicked out quite a few Division I strength coaches, myself, Colin Crane, and Charlie Ray, to name a couple. And so certainly grateful to him. And then as a part of the coursework there, I had Patsy Boyce, who's a legend on that campus, for anatomy, physiology, kinesiology. And she was always challenging me to do more. If the coursework was easy, go further, type. And then Dr. Jean Love. Still have a great relationship with, I call her Coach Love because she was a tennis coach when I was there. And she actually gave me my first team as far as somebody to coach, and worked with strength and conditioning there with the men's and women's tennis program during my senior year after I got back from Exos, and really trusted me to employ some knowledge that I got in other places and really kind of cut my teeth as a coach.
We'll talk a little bit about your time with Exos as well. You go out west and you get to learn there. It's a top performance institute out there. What were some of the things you learned there, and just kind of explain Exos a little bit to some people who may not know?
Awesome. Yeah. So Exos is a private sector facility. They work with most famously with combine athletes for the NFL combine, but they also train NFL pros in the off season, Major League Baseball, soccer, NHL, you name it. And they have a phenomenal methodology and education program for anyone who goes there, whether it's part of a mentorship or an internship. And really the first takeaway that I had was, movement first. Really, we want our athletes to move well, and then we want to strengthen those patterns, right? So a lot of the misconception of strength and conditioning is, bring them in, load them up, squat heavy. There's certainly a time and place for that, but we want our athletes to move well, because if it's not translating to the field or to the playing surface, well, then we're creating problems. We're not fixing them. So that was the biggest takeaway there. Being organized as far as sessions goes was another big thing. You could have a different number of athletes in the room on any different day just by guys flying in and out. We were in LA at that time, so it was a popular city to be around. So you had to kind of be ready for 5 extra guys to show up, or 5 extra guys maybe not to be there, and just being flexible and agile in that programming was a huge step and a huge advantage for me.
So you graduate from Carson-Newman, and you're looking for jobs, of course, like every graduate is, and you end up going out to Las Cruces, New Mexico, with the New Mexico State Aggies. Were you kind of scared, kind of trepidation to go off that far away from home at first?
It was definitely a step. I felt a level of comfort because the head coach there now was the head coach currently, or who is the head coach currently, is Doug Martin. He's Oak Ridge High School graduate, so had a relationship with him going out there, and that's actually kind of what got my foot in the door for the internship, and fell in love with Las Cruces. It's where I met my wife and spent almost 7 years there. So it was a great place to be.
So you got the Mexico State, build your way up, and eventually director of Olympic sports and exercise performance. We're going to talk about some of the teams you worked with. You worked a little bit with basketball, and during your time there, that was a pretty good athlete there in Mexico State named Pascal Siakam, current
Yep.
former NBA champion. What can you just tell us about Pascal, how he approaches practice and strength training, and how great of an athlete was he to work with?
So we talked about this first. Players as people first, and Pascal is a phenomenal person. A lot of people through his draft process spoke so highly of him as a person, even before they touted his talents as a player. So I certainly can't go without recognizing that. And then the way that he approached the summer before his final season at NMSU, I've never seen an athlete more driven. The guy put on 20 pounds, did some great things in the weight room, but was just in the gym all the time, working on his game, and in a smart way. It wasn't a way where he just went to check the box and say he got his shots up. He was intentional about it. And, one of my friends was the head strength coach for men's basketball at that time, and I was actually assisting him. His name is Riley Allen. He's with Ole Miss. Did a phenomenal job with him of kind of helping manage all those parts of his process. But Pascal was phenomenal. And then, we had a number of other great guys. We had Jamario Jones, who was with the Lakers for a little bit, Zach Lofton with the Pistons for a little bit. I mean, 100 other players who I still text and love, and just a bunch of great guys. That was a great program to be a part of.
Of course, Mexico State, for people that don't know, one of the top Division I mid-major programs the past few years, have won several Western Athletic Conference titles, have made it to NCAA tournaments. Did it kind of throw you off your first NCAA tournament to kind of see that many people there on such a big stage? And then, did it kind of become normal to you, like, all right, this is what we do at Mexico State, just win and keep going to tournaments?
Yeah. I remember the first NCAA tournament game that I was a part of. We played Baylor. They had Jonathan Motley. We went into, I think we were the 15, and we went into halftime up, and the locker room was way too excited about it for halftime. And then we ended up, really struggling in that second half, and, things don't quite go your way. And then, under Chris Jans, it became normalcy. It was the expectation to make the NCAA tournament and to play in a way to win games in March. And it was phenomenal to be a part of. You definitely did feel comfortable. We had Auburn down to the last second, and that one still hurts me. But yeah, NCAA tournament, man, there's nothing quite like it.
Absolutely. Now we'll look over to football. New Mexico State historically has not been a great program, but you broke through finally 2017. People have seen the clip, Doug Martin talking after the South Alabama game, hold on, knock off the Jags, and then you go to the Arizona Bowl, and not only do you go to the Arizona Bowl, but you win it in thrilling fashion over Utah State. It was the first bowl game in 57 years for the Aggies. Just kind of, could you tell at the beginning of that season that something special was going to happen in Las Cruces?
Certainly felt it around there. Everybody was hopeful. We had a lot of talented guys. You had Jaleel Scott, Larry Rose, Terrell Hanks, Tyler Rogers, just to name, some of the more well-known guys, but just a huge group of senior leadership and guys who, really did some great things there. And it was awesome to be a part of that group and get to see, their hard work, not just for that year, but through their career payoff. It was definitely special to be on that sideline.
And of course, Doug Martin, what can you say about him? Oak Ridge guy, helped you get the foot in the door. Just his leadership that season, his leadership in New Mexico State. Just what have you learned from Doug Martin during your time at New Mexico State?
Absolutely. Well, I told him, and Don Decker, who was the head strength coach who I worked under there, I told them both, I owe you my career. You guys gave me the first opportunity, and took a chance on a kid who didn't know much. And I mean, I would say that to this day. And Coach Martin is really, really a tough love leader, right? He's tough, but he's going to be fair. He has high expectations. He wants things to operate at a high level, and he wants to make sure that you do that, and that it pushed me to be better every single day, and that's something that I still value.
Absolutely. So, of course, as you know, COVID threw a wrench in everyone's plans when it first hit, and you had to change some things up. What were some of the changes that you had to change and adapt to during the strength program during your final year at New Mexico State?
Oh man, so yeah, I had an interesting COVID journey. We actually, so state of New Mexico actually mandated that sports teams could not practice within their state. So men's basketball, well, football canceled their season. So that was difficult. We were still training with our athletes 4 days a week. It was incredible what we were able to do from a training perspective, but those guys signed up to play college football, not do college lifting weights. And so that was definitely tough for them. And but then basketball season came around, and we actually relocated to Phoenix because of the mandates in the state of New Mexico. And we were living out of a hotel in Phoenix. We had a weight room there. We had our own practice court and a ballroom. And we're playing home games at Grand Canyon University, who is our conference rival.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a adjustment period. Definitely something that I continue to look back on, because everybody had to make adaptation, and the stresses that it put on me, on our players, on our program, and what we all came away with, and what we learned, and the bond that we have coming out of that. It was definitely a unique experience.
So after this year, of course, you end up getting a job with the Los Angeles Rams as assistant strength and conditioning coach. How that job kind of come about, and was it a difficult decision to decide to go to the Rams, or were you all for it?
I was absolutely all for it. I mean, it's a phenomenal organization to be a part of. People talk about the NFL and getting to this level, but getting to a great organization at whatever level, to me, is one of the more important things. And being around the people here just elevates your performance every single day. The collaboration is absolutely phenomenal. So couldn't feel happier. The way it came about, we used a bar tracking technology called Elite Form in our weight room at New Mexico State. Through some connections with them, I got my foot into kind of a sports science realm of things. So I'm actually a dual report here. I do strength conditioning. Then I'm also collaborating with our director of sports science, Tyler Williams, to try and make sure that all those pieces match up. And couldn't be happier.
Absolutely. And so, of course, you see the Rams. There's a lot of notable names on the roster: Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, now Matthew Stafford. But who's a guy that kind of just gets after it in the weight room that you noticed the first time you saw, kind of maybe threw you off a little bit? It was just like, oh, this is a real deal. These guys are getting after it.
Yeah, I mean, AD's work ethic is historic. But one guy who's a guy that I get the opportunity to work with day in and day out is Tyler Higbee. They call him Big Rig Higgs, and he's earned that nickname for sure. He works hard in every single aspect of his physical and tactical preparation. And shoot, it showed up on Sunday. He's one of the top performing tight ends in the league this week. So
absolutely. And so we'll go into your first preseason game, and you make some headlines in your first preseason game. I'm sure you've seen it as the Sean McVay body double. Have you ever noticed that? And what was kind of your reaction to those tweets that went out, noticing you on the national broadcast against the Chargers?
So I've gotten that before. I got it even when I was at New Mexico State a little bit. I've just kind of always had the light colored beard and the little high and tight haircut. And we noticed it when I got to the facility here. We were still under a mask mandate, and I had a mask on. And one of the players said, yo, you look like McVay, you got to change some of this up. And so it kind of became a running joke. Everyone noticed it. Coach has had a phenomenal sense of humor about it. And so then with the role as his get back coach, you kind of end up in all of the camera shots. And I not only look, but I feel like I'm just stalking him around the sideline sometimes. And I mean, I had a lot of former teammates, a lot of former players texted me those tweets, and I think it's hilarious. It's a great time and great to hear from some of those guys on that stuff. And I'm just trying to contribute on game day and do my job.
So far, of course, you've only been there a couple of months. You just started the season when we're recording this. Week 1's just wrapped up. Week 2 has just wrapped up when this podcast drops. Been able to work with some of the coaches there, and NFL's top tier. What have you been able to learn so far from your head strength coach and, of course, from Coach McVay?
So Justin Lovett's our head strength coach, and he's a phenomenal leader as far as facilitating all of our staff to do what they're excellent at, to do what we're brought here to do. He's really given us a lot of autonomy to do that, and it's something that I appreciate. And he's definitely been a guiding factor with his experience in this league and his success in this league, to help us, avoid some of the pitfalls of early programming and things like that, and understand the rhythm and how things are going to go. And then from Coach McVay, he sets the culture for this organization, this building, and preaches "we, not me," and being selfless and being completely and totally present. And those are things that you hear as a member of this organization. It's impossible not to take them with you into your workday and try to implement them. So from a tactical side of things and a football side of things, obviously he's phenomenal. But from a cultural side of things and a leadership side of things, he has absolutely been fantastic and has really been an inspiration to me as a part of the organization.
So we roll on, like we said, week 1 just wrapped up. First home game in front of a full capacity stadium. It's on Sunday Night Football, national TV. Did it ever hit you during the game kind of like, holy cow, I've really made it to the NFL, or does it just kind of treated like kind of as a normal game day for you?
So before the game, I wanted to kind of take a moment and, breathe it all in, because it has been a road to get here. And, I've definitely been fortunate, but have definitely worked hard for the opportunity, and I wanted to take that moment to kind of breathe it all in. But Sunday gets going fast. So, I had a little time on the field just before the game, just to kind of look around and see everybody and nod my head and know, okay, this is where we're at. And kind of one moment of congratulations. Okay, here we go. And then once it was off and rolling, it was a game day. Thankfully we'd had some of those preseason games as a little bit of a dress rehearsal for the new rhythm of how this organization works on the sideline. But we were off and running for sure.
You made the transition from high school in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, to a Division II school in Jefferson City, out to Las Cruces, New Mexico for work for Division I school, and now to the NFL. That's a big time step. It took you a lot of hard work to get there. What would you say to somebody who maybe they're at Carson-Newman, want to be a strength coach, maybe they want to be, a big time athlete? What would you say to them to, continue to follow those dreams and to build up to hopefully get to that level?
It's kind of a trite old saying, but hard work pays off. Always working hard and doing your best at whatever situation that you're in, whether you're a high school player, whether you're a Division II player, whether you're a graduate assistant in Division I and you want to be a head coach, or whatever it is. Giving your best to the moment is going to give your best in the future. And, that's not always easy to do. It takes being present. It takes being disciplined. It takes a lot of energy at times. But if you continue to do that, it pays off on the back end 100% of the time. And it may not always be how you think it's going to be paid off, but it does pay off. And so that would be kind of my words of encouragement for anyone else who wants to exceed and accomplish and do all that stuff. And it's something that I still continue to push myself with.
You talked about, of course, when you got the job and also just getting talking with your old teammates. How was Carson-Newman like a family to you, and have those bonds really stayed throughout your entire career postgraduate?
Oh man, yeah, it's definitely like a family. I mean, it is a smaller campus. You do get a ton of football players on campus, get to develop relationships. I came into Carson-Newman, one of my friends, my childhood friends, Charlie Kalinsky, actually signed at the same time that I did. And, we went to 2 different high schools, so hadn't been spending as much time. Then he becomes my roommate. And then, he's in my wedding, 5 years later. Christian McFall was also in my wedding, another guy that I played with who was a receiver there. Toby Slagle's another guy I've connected with out here. He was another quarterback, and I remember throwing with him when he was a backup and I was a backup on the field. And Jacob Coleman, who was an All-American there and phenomenal player, was another guy who I got close with and still keep in contact with. So, you just become tight knit, and the bonds of football are tough to break. But there's something special about football at Mossy Creek that kind of bonds guys together, and couldn't be more grateful for the friendships and the relationships that I have. Not just people that you can call, but people that you can depend on.
Absolutely. Well, Zach, thank you so much for your time. I know you are busy getting ready for this next game, but thank you so much for joining me here on Mossy Creek Conversations.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Richard.
As it concludes this week's edition of Mossy Creek Conversations, thank you so much for tuning in. You can, of course, follow the LA Rams all season and continue to follow the Carson-Newman football team this year at cneagles.com. Thank you for joining us.